The Castle in the Attic, Chapter 9. But she didn't change her mind the next day, or the one after that. By Thursday, William had come to dread his afternoon trip to the attic. "How is she?" he'd asked the Silver Knight, who came up to the upper wall walk at the sound of his footsteps. "The same," was his inevitable reply. "She is not eating well, and I can hear her pacing long into the night." William tried everything. In the early morning, he brought her breakfast, small bits of toast sprinkled with butter and Marmite. In the afternoon, when he got home from school, he brought her hot tea. He allowed Sir Simon to light a fire in the fireplace in her bedroom, even though he was worried that the whole castle might go up in flames. He cut curtains for her narrow windows out of some red velvet material from his mother's sewing closet, and gave the knight some English postage stamps to paste on her wall. But nothing seemed to work. He had not even seen her face the first day he brought her to the attic. One afternoon, Sir Simon reported that the giant had been up to visit. "Which one?" William asked. "The one you call Dad. He walked all around the castle, and then knelt down and spread some ribbon from one corner to the other. Most peculiar behavior. I was watching him through the arrow loop in the wardrobe." "That was my father. He said he wanted to build a moat for the castle. I wonder if he's really going to do it. Did he see you or Mrs. Phillips?" "No, he was not here long. I think she considered calling to him for help, but I persuaded her it would be of no use. The only thing that can restore her to her normal size is the other half of the token." "If only she'd let me explain," William said for the 100th time. "She told me last night that she will not come out of her room until you come in and get her," the knight said slowly. "But she knows I can't do that," William cried. "I'm too big." There was a silence. "I think that's what she means, William," the knight said. "She wants me to be small too?" "She wants you to see how it feels." "But how would I ever get big again? I'd be trapped in there." Even as he said the words, he knew what the knight was thinking. That was exactly what he had done to Mrs. Phillips. "You were part of it too, Sir Simon. It wasn't just my idea." "You were both too hasty. She was made small against her will, William. There is no changing that now. Every day she spends here, she loses time in her own world. But I have an idea. Meet me by the drawbridge." William lay down on the floor near the front entranceway to the castle. Slowly the drawbridge was lowered. Sir Simon walked out to the end of the bridge. Then he turned and pointed up at the riddle written above the castle doors. Once again, William read it. "When the lady doth ply her needle, and the lord his sword doth test, then the squire shall cross the drawbridge, and the time will be right for a quest." "So what?" he said. "We have the lord, and we have the lady. We are only missing the squire," Sir Simon said. "Think about it, William." Without another word, he went back inside and raised the drawbridge for the night. The next day, William waited for Jason after school. He needed desperately to talk to somebody. Jason looked surprised to see him. "Want to bike into town?" William suggested cautiously. "I have to get some food for dinner." "Sure, I don't have anything better to do." They pulled their bikes out of the rack and headed out to the main road. "How's the castle?" Jason asked, drawing up alongside. "Okay. Mrs. Phillips left last week. She said to say goodbye to you. I didn't think she was going that quickly. The traffic was bad, and the two of them had to concentrate on steering for the rest of the ride into town. Jason did seem a bit surprised when William led him through the grocery store to the vegetable section along the rear wall. Ginger, broccoli, soy sauce, that's it. We've got the flank steak at home. What's the deal? Jason asked. My father and I are cooking Chinese the night that Mom works late. Want to have dinner with us tonight? Jason shook his head. I'll let you practice for a couple more weeks, he said with a grin. Want to come back with me now? Sure. William was glad he didn't have to talk about his problems right there on the sidewalk. When they got home, he walked through the house, turning on the lights. I always do that first when I get home, William explained. Jason nodded. Must be weird coming home to an empty house after all the years of Mrs. Phillips being here. Kind of neat, too. I wish my mother wasn't always hanging around asking about my day at school. They settled down at the kitchen table with 2 big bowls of cold cereal. Jason, what if you had a friend who really needed your help, but you couldn't help him unless you changed yourself? Said William. What do you mean? Well, pretend somebody was beating me up and your glasses got knocked off and you couldn't find them. Would you try to do something anyway? Sure, but I wouldn't be much help. But would you try and fight the guy off anyway? William asked. Well, I wouldn't go away and leave if you were in trouble like that. That's what I thought you'd say. What's this all about? Jason asked. William wanted to tell him everything, all about the castle and the Silver Knight and what he'd done to Mrs. Phillips. He knew Jason would not laugh at him, but he also knew that keeping the secret to himself was part of what he had to go through. He'd got himself into this mess, and he had to get himself out. I'm doing a story for English class, and I'm not sure how it's going to end, he said. It was a lame excuse, but Jason didn't question him further. Maybe when it's all over, I can tell Jason about it, William thought later that night. When I come back. If I come back. He sat up in bed. If I'm talking about coming back, I must have decided to go, he said to the empty room. William kept his decision to himself for a couple of days. His visits to the attic were brief and businesslike. He ignored the meaningful looks from the night and his hints that Mrs. Phillips' health was deteriorating. On Sunday afternoon, when William came in from a special gymnastics practice, his father called him down to his workroom in the cellar. Sitting on the cement floor was a wooden platform, which was surrounded by a separate wooden rectangle. Do you like it? William's father asked. What is it? The platform is for the castle. The outer frame is a wall so that when you let down the drawbridge, it can rest right here. His father pointed to a notch in the outer wall. The tunnel in between them is the moat. You take the wall, he said, lifting up the platform. Dad, where are you going? William called. Up to the attic! His father's voice floated back to him from the top of the cellar steps. William picked up the rectangle wall and hurried after him. How was he going to get up there in time to warn Sir Simon? Dad, wait! Let me go first! He called, but his father was already on the second floor. I can't stop now, William. This thing is heavy, he shouted back. And before William could say anything more, he heard the tramp of his father's shoes on the attic steps. By the time he got upstairs, his father had settled the platform down next to the castle. It still smells like smoke up here. I noticed it the other day when I came up to measure the castle, Mr. Lawrence said. Do you smell it? No, William said quickly. It's always this way. I'll pick up the castle and you slip the platform under. It's too big for you to lift alone, his father said. We'll each lift one side and push the platform under with our feet. Ready? Heave-ho! William lifted his side of the castle very carefully, trying to keep even with his father. Looking down from above, he could see the terrified face of the Silver Knight staring up at him from behind the stable door. Mrs. Phillips was probably in her bedchamber, safely hidden under the roof. They had disturbed Sir Simon's dinner. His plate spilled off the table and rolled across the courtyard while they were pushing the platform into place with their feet. All right, let her down, William. There. That's perfect. Mr. Lawrence lowered the outer wall over the castle. Drop the drawbridge and we'll see how it fits. The drawbridge settled easily into the notch in the wood. That's terrific, Dad! William was trying desperately to lure his father back down the steps, but he was pacing around the castle, sniffing the air. Odd smell. I don't remember it before. I'd better have a smoke alarm installed up here. Oh, one more part. I have it in my pocket. Mr. Lawrence pulled out a triangular wedge of wood and connected it to the end of the drawbridge. Now the returning victorious army can get up the ramp. William stopped worrying about Mrs. Phillips and Sir Simon for a moment. He sat down on the top step and looked up at his father. Dad, that's the first time you've ever finished a project for me. Is it really? His father said. Remember the treehouse that we half built together? And the dog kennel? Well, that wasn't your fault. They both smiled. They'd gone halfway through the kennel one weekend. When William proudly showed it to Mrs. Phillips on Monday afternoon, she told him she was allergic to dogs. And the bookshelves in the cellar, his father added a bit sheepishly. Never mind. I finished this one. That's right. You finished this one, and it's great. Just what my castle needed. William stood up. Better lift the drawbridge for the night, his father said, leaning over the castle again. Where is that lever? Oh, here it is. Please, nobody move, William prayed. The drawbridge seemed to take forever, but at last it was in place. It's a very special castle, isn't it? His father said, looking down on it. I almost feel as if it's magic in some way. It is, William said. His father didn't ask him to explain. He rested his arm on William's shoulder. Nice legacy for Mrs. Phillips to leave, he said, as if her spirit lives on in the attic. William had a funny feeling in his chest. He knew if he tried to say anything, he would start to cry. They stood there a moment longer without speaking. When William sneaked up later to see if the Lord and Lady were all right, Sir Simon was pacing back and forth along the wall walk. Imagine how you would feel, my boy, if you were sitting down to a nice meal of roasted mouse legs and your entire castle were lifted up and banged about like a mere piece of kindling. I doubt you would take it too kindly. I barely had time to gain the safety of the stable. And Lady Eleanor is not herself at all this evening. She has gone to bed early. I said I was sorry, Sir Simon. I had no idea my father was coming up here. You have to admit, it's a pretty nice moat and ramp he made. A useful contraption, I dare say. After apologizing a few more times and rearranging the disturbed furniture, William started downstairs. Halfway, he remembered something and came back. The knight was still standing on the wall walk. Sir Simon, tell me again about the token. If the person wants to be made small, then time isn't taken away from it, is it? No, the person would return to his world at the same moment he left. The knight looked at William with a strange expression, but he didn't ask any questions. Okay, thanks, William said. Their words hung in the air for a moment while neither one moved. William wanted Sir Simon to promise him that if he joined them, he would be sure to come back again. But he knew it was a promise nobody could make to him. Good night, William, Sir Simon said at last. Sleep well. Good night. He had decided he would join them at 4:15 the next afternoon. 1 week from the moment Mrs. Phillips had been standing on that flagstone looking up at him. He went upstairs right after dinner to pack. When he'd finally assembled everything on the bed, it looked like a very odd assortment. 1 recorder, 1 bear, 1 box of candles, 1 toothbrush, 1 jar of Marmite, as a peace offering to Mrs. Phillips, 1 box of tea bags, 4 loaves of bread, 2 bottles of water, 1 pair of hiking boots, 1 large box of matches, 1 pair of binoculars, and a change of clothing. He stuffed everything into a backpack and went to bed. His mother came up to kiss him goodnight. She had been on call all weekend, which meant he had barely seen her. She leaned against the headboard with her arm along the back of his pillow. They often took this time to talk at the end of the day. Where's Bear? He's usually in on these conversations. Down at the bottom of the bed. He's cold. William sighed. Another lie. I hear your father gave you the contraption he made for your castle. Yes, it's neat. How did the practice go this afternoon? All right, I guess. I'm having trouble with the last part of my floor routine. I haven't been able to do it correctly since Mrs. Phillips left. His mother shifted position to look at him. I know this week must have been hard for you, adjusting to Mrs. Phillips's being gone. William looked at his hands. How much easier would it be if that was all he had to adjust to? I'm tired, Mom. Big day tomorrow. All right, she said. Good night. When she hugged him, he held on to her a moment longer than usual. You're a great hugger, William, she said as she let him go. The next day, William tried hard to concentrate on his classes, so he wouldn't think about what was going to happen to him that afternoon. When he said goodbye to Jason at the end of the day, his friend frowned at him. You look kind of funny, Jason said. You feel all right? William nodded. I guess so. See ya. When he looked back from the corner, Jason was still standing there, his bike leaning against his hip, staring after him. Sir Simon, William called softly from the top of the attic steps. The knight appeared in their customary meeting spot on the wall walk near the south tower. He looked a little weary. Good afternoon, William. Have you got the token? I'm ready to come. The knight looked startled. Ready? Yes. See, I brought my backpack. I hope I thought of everything. But this is wonderful news, William. I must go tell Lady Eleanor at once. Sir Simon. William put his index finger across the tower door, bringing the small man up short. Please don't say anything to her. Please just work the magic quickly before I change my mind. I want to do what she asked. I want to go and see her myself. The small man turned with a new look in his eye. William liked to think it was respect. Yes, of course, I understand. He reached into his belt pouch. I'll meet you at the drawbridge. Why there? William asked. The knight smiled up at him. At your size, from where you're standing, You can reach the drawbridge with one step, but when you're small, it will take you considerably longer. The knight disappeared into the south tower to take the stairs. William went and stood at the front entrance of the castle to wait for him. Why couldn't he take back what he had done to Mrs. Phillips? Then she'd be on her way to England, and the Silver Knight could go on his mad quest by himself. The knight waved up at him from his position by the lever of the drawbridge. When William saw the token held out between the small man's extended hands, he closed his eyes. The hair on his forehead lifted a little in a sudden breeze. "Do it, Sir Simon! I can't wait forever!" he cried. "It's done!" the voice called in reply. William opened his eyes. He was looking up at the gray walls of the castle. He could see the rough lines of mortar between each square stone, the intricate carvings on either side of the doorway, the chiseled letters of the motto above. Slowly the drawbridge was lowered. A foot at a time, William stood watching as the thick planks came down toward him and settled with a thump into the notch of the outer wall. He walked up the ramp his father had made and waited. The bar slid away from its place, and slowly the double doors were opened. Sir Simon appeared at the entrance, his arms outstretched. "Enter, young William," was all he said.